What's up, everyone? I'm the devastating Just Cause, and this is DJC Game Studios. Welcome. Today we're going to do a little reminiscing over my favorite system growing up, and we're going to talk about some of the games I personally had growing up. We know what I'm about to talk about, and it's the Intellivision. If you couldn't tell, I have a self-made shirt I made about 4 years ago, because back then, before Tommy really took over, there wasn't much Intellivision merch, and if you were a super fan, like myself, you designed and cut and pasted a mediocre shirt, you can even see the white line there, and had it printed out, and it cost you $1 zillion, but this was my self-made, with all the overlays with a picture of Intellivision, and the overlays aren't lined up correctly, but as you can see, they're still pretty awesome, and I made a few like this. I also have one with like Shifty Eye Dealer photoshopped with a Vegas. Anyways, I'm quite the nerd. But anyways, let's get into it. So, growing up, my family, my cousins lived around the corner. So we go over there, and of course they had the Atari. And we all know everybody, a lot of people had the Atari 2600. That's what all people were talking about. And this is what, early 80s, right? And one day I came home. I guess I didn't even think about video games. It was just like I went over there to play it. It was almost like a toy that I just never had. And so when I go play over my cousins, we play Asteroids. And they had Frogger, which I thought Frogger was amazing. To this day, it's such a great game, too. And anyways, we come home, and one day I came home from playing over at my cousin's playing the Atari, and I was like, man, wish we had a cool toy like this, that does this with a television, Thus, the Intellivision. I come home, my dad has on top of our old wood grain floor standing TV. I think it was like a 25-inch tube TV that sat on the floor. And sitting on top of it was that wood grain and gold, man. And he had just brought it home and just was about to hook it up. And he said, "This costs $200. Do not touch it without me being here." Like it was like, whoa, this is a new adult accessory for the TV. I wasn't about to touch it yet. But I mean, I was excited. I was like, oh, what is it? Is it like they have the Atari? Is it something like that? And I was like, as a kid, I was blown away. I can't even remember the age I was. Maybe 10, maybe even younger when we first got it. And so then he made it to where he ran the wires from the TV all the way down and tucked them in the carpet, ran them up the back of the couch so that we were sitting with the console here and someone was sitting on each side. The first game, of course, we had was Poker and Blackjack. Poker and Blackjack, I still to this day do not know many card games, but I'd say anything I probably learned was from Las Vegas Poker and Blackjack. And the dealer, man, the dealer was so funny, even as a kid. When I was allowed to, when it was moved over to the couch and he didn't have to set it up and I knew how to set it up, I was able to play it on my own. And I'd pop that in. And I wouldn't know the names, like I didn't understand. Like I knew that like 5-card draw you had to discard and I just wanted to make the dealer mad. So if you won, he'd always get like really mad and it was just so much fun. But after that, I don't want to spend too much time on everything because we didn't have a lot of games, to be honest. I think I got more of my library way after. But the next one he ended up getting was bowling. I'm sorry. I take that back. I'm sorry. It was Astro Smash. Of course, Astro Smash. And that was probably one of his favorite games to play. Because obviously it's fun, it's easy, addicting, and it lasts forever. Yeah, Astro Smash, that was a fun time. I would get in there and we'd all try to make it up to the 6th level and see how far we could just keep shooting into the... obviously that takes hours, And we try to get our high score, and I still have one of my original Astro Smashes here, and it has, it's sealed up. I think in the last video I did, it was, maybe I need to take it out just to show, but I have like old high scores from then, from all different years, and it just kind of goes down, and it's so damn cool. I think it is, at least. And the next one we got after that was bowling. And bowling was cool because my mom, my dad, they'd invite friends over to play it too because it was like a four-player game. You know, you pass your controllers. And as they would do a lot, because when we got golf too, and I'll just kind of throw this in here. The golf game was another one, just the regular PGA golf. They would set up the kitchen chairs in the living room on our orange shag carpet, by the way, and and we'd have the nice 1970s, 80s kitchen chairs with the sparkly vinyl and anyways. So they'd set those in there, and they'd all make drinks, and at the time, everybody smoked cigarettes because no one knew it was going to kill you, or maybe they did, who knows. And everybody'd be having drinks and smoking cigarettes, and they'd have all the chairs set up in the console in front of the big old wood grain TV, and they'd be playing golf, man, and just yelling and having fun. And it was just like the first time I was like, whoa, this is like a party with video games. Bring your friends together, you know? So like it was so cool, man. And so after that, we'd get baseball, and then me and my dad would play baseball, and I'd get mad, and he'd get mad, and we'd steal bases. You're not supposed to steal the bases. Yes, you can steal the base. Why would it let you steal the base? But it was fun. It was all in fun, and I had a blast. Learned about baseball then, being so young. We had so many baseball games. That was fun. And at the time, the baseball was the two players. You know, later on, there was the World Championship baseball where you could slide, and you could play against a computer with a one player. That was pretty awesome. Then after that, we got a weird one, which at the time I thought was, because I didn't realize, Lock and Chase. Lock and Chase was based off an arcade game. I didn't know that. The only time I'd ever heard of Lock and Chase was for Intellivision. So we would play that, and the cool fun thing about that is you had a little thief, and he was like, bloop, 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 and he'd kind of go around like a Pac-Man style screen, because that was all the rage back then, was maze games that you'd eat up dots. But you could also lock, so you had these lines like in the grid in the maze, and when you passed it, you could hit your side button, it would lock them. And sometimes you could lock them right in the corner to where the little cop couldn't get out, and then you make your getaway. And then you'd have to clear, and eventually you'd have all these little things you get, like a purse, a jewel, a ring, a diamond, like all this stuff, and you'd have it just, eventually you'd have all the characters all the way up to the very last board. And it was a hard and challenging game. Moving on as I'm looking at my list over here. After that, we ended up getting auto racing. So it was like, I think we had a Kmart. That's what it was. It was Kmart sold them. And back then, all the games were in a glass case, almost like a jewelry case. And you'd look down and be like, ooh, I'll take that one. Can I look at that one? And I remember, but my parents would go out, if they went out to Sears or Kmart's, you know, where they sold most of this stuff, they'd come home and I'd be like, did they buy another game for Intellivision? Because it was really their system. I was just like, oh, I just want another game, you know? And eventually they brought back auto racing. And auto racing was fun. I had a good time with it. I wouldn't say it was my favorite. I mean, I used to love crashing or going into the water and slowly just like for an hour until you went and found a little secret track. But I thought it was so hard to control, but the sounds are amazing. Like the sounds of the brakes and the squealing, it was always fun. Then we got hockey, NHL hockey, which to me, I loved the sound effects. And as a kid, even though it was a two-player game, the goalies were controlled by the computer. So you could still kind of shoot on it, which was a little easier, obviously, when there's no defense. But my favorite thing was swinging at the dude, and he'd go thump, and then he'd flip up in the air and land and be like, I mean, he didn't look around like that. He was a stick figure, but it was still funny. That's how you thought. Like, your imagination made you think he was just like spinning on the ice, like, who just flipped me on my butt, man? What the heck? Funniest sound effect. And then you get penalties after you just whooped them so many times. That was always good memories. Next one we ended up getting was Frog Bog, which I always liked because many years later it was featured in the Grandma's Boy thing when they're playing and the whole people are cheering them on. And, and I was like, Frog Bog! Yeah, anytime there's a good Intellivision reference in a movie, which is rare, it's always a good time. But Frog Bog, yeah, you'd eat flies and eat bugs, and you fly on the lily pads, and you could either control your tongue or you can turn off auto control and jump in the water. It was fun. I enjoyed that game as well. And then we got a weird one, but one that'll stick with me for a long time because I had many hours playing, and that is Night Stalker. Of course, Night Stalker, the new one's coming on the Miko, which looks amazing. Sorry for that voice. That was weird. Anyways, it was amazing. It is. It looked amazing. But yeah, Night Stalker was sweet because you had the different type of robots and eventually the robot that would destroy your bunker. And I believe the invisible robot was last. Was he last or before the black robot that destroyed the bunker? Either way, I could never beat the last dude. They always took me out. But I had a good time with that. Then we got our first Activision game, our first and only one that we ever owned, which was Pitfall. And the cool thing about Pitfall is that my cousins around the corner had Pitfall for Atari, but my Intellivision Pitfall, I say mine, was my mom and dad's, but the Intellivision Pitfall was a little more polished, a little nicer looking. I remember having to try to jump off the crocodile heads and timing those jumps with the disc, and it was treacherously hard, but eventually I learned just how to hit it right, and I was like, blip, 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 and it was like an easy jump every time. But until you learned, it was like you always slipped and off the edge and fell in the water. That was always fun. I remember playing that like on a weekend. So, because I didn't realize as a kid, I'm like, that Pitfall just keeps going and going and going and going in a circle, you know. I'm like, I need to reach the end. And I played it for hours, and it was fun. Next was was a fun one. It wasn't fun to me because at the time I was like, I don't want to learn. But they picked up a learning cartridge, and that was Math Fun. One of the worst subjects I ever had in was math, and no matter what grade I was in, it was just to this day I'm awful with math, and maybe that's why my mom picked it up and brought it home. I'm like, oh, math, not fun. But the cool thing about it is, at least in the easy levels, you could get through, and then you get into multiplication tables and long division, or I don't even know it had long division, but I know multiplication tables at my age was like, and you get it wrong, and the gorilla would jump in the water. Then you get it right and clear anything, and it did that. I'm really apologize for that too, because that was a terrible rendition. But yeah, it had that the gorilla jumping in and out of the water, and it would do that dance, and the sounds of that, and like the roar of the lion, it'd be like, like terrible again. Sorry, but they were just the memories of those sounds, of the sound effects, like always stuck with me. It wasn't that bad. I just don't like math. But then we got Beauty and the Beast, man. And I'm sorry, we did get Donkey Kong before this, but everybody knows Donkey Kong, so I don't really need to get into that. But Beauty and the Beast. That was so cool. I think the best thing, besides climbing to the very, very top of the building and sometimes falling off, which is hilarious, but when you won and got to the top and you had to push the Beast off and he fell, and you see that little animation of him going, and it another weird effect. And it just shakes the screen, and then it gives you a little message like, well done, or it says something different every time. And I always thought that was really cool. I got fairly far in that. It just keeps getting harder and harder. That was a really fun one, though. That was our first Magic game. That was pretty much everything I think I had at my own house that at the time my parents would buy. Now, I went over to my sister's house, my sister Norma, and they had, and my brother-in-law Chris had an Intellivision, and they had pretty much kind of the same games we had, but they had two that I'd never seen before, and the first one is Star Strike. Star Strike was cool because it looked like Star Wars, had that trench, that 3D looking trench with like the stripes, and then you had the big moon planet, and then you had the Earth that kept inching out, because you knew the whole thing was you had to stop these torpedoes from blowing up the Earth. So if you missed them, by the time the Earth came in alignment with that trench, boom, boom, and it had the awesome like exploding planet looking thing. Back then, those were insane graphics, and I was like, the only thing is, back as a kid, I could never figure out how to play it, and then I found out later on, and I beat it many a times. I can almost beat it quite fast. I should have to do a video on it. Is that you have to watch those targets when it goes doot 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 doot, the target comes out, and then it's like a red circle, and you got to drop your plane down and bomb it. So and then it shakes everything, and you keep doing that, I believe, for all 6 targets, and then eventually the whole thing shakes and it just explodes, and then it plays like a little victory tune, and you win, and you check your points and restart again. But that was a fun one. And then the other one they had, which I thought was cool, because once again, I was like, my cousins around the corner had Atari, they had Space Invaders. Well, my sister had Space Armada. And I was like, and even as a kid, you're like, this is a more polished, like, bigger version of Space Invaders. Like, everything was bigger, the sprites. It was an Intellivision game. It was awesome. So, yeah, Space Armada. I don't need to say much more about it. It is a Space Invaders clone, but it was fun, and it was kind of cool that I was able to play a Space Invaders type game on the Intellivision. And then my other sister Jerry and my brother-in-law Rich at the time they had I guess when the crash happened and everybody was just clearancing out games, they had went to a store and there was just a barrel or basket full of games. They were all like $3-4, and they just bought all of them. So they pretty much almost had an entire Intellivision collection. And I forgot what holiday or something, I went over there, and we went down there as us and a few other kids like my age, and we were down there and in the basement, and they had a bookshelf, and I was like, oh, it had all the Magic games. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, what's this one? And I pull out Microsurgeon. Now, Microsurgeon was so cool because you got to get in a little, I always said a little spaceship, but you basically were inside the veins and arteries, and you were shooting vitamins, and it was so cool because you could have one person ready to dispense vitamins, ready, and you could play like you were operating on someone for real. I always thought that was really cool. You get inside the eyeball, or you go in the lungs and knock all the tar out of the lungs. Why were people still smoking back then? Had they not known by this point, even in the game? Anyways. And then after that, the next one I pulled off the shelf was another classic, but it was the first time I'd ever seen it, Shark. And I was like, oh my God. So me and my niece, which was only a few years younger than me, always end up hanging out. And I was like, let's play Shark. And you play like the little fish eats the big fish till you get bigger. We obviously know Shark. And the new one on the Miko looks amazing! I did it again. Sorry about that. We won't do the weird voices anymore. Yeah, we will. And the next one we ended up picking up was Space Spartans. And that's one where the computer would talk to you, and it would be like, hello, Commander, computer reporting. And you could hit status. And that one's, I remember playing it, and you'd shoot at the little TIE fighter looking things and everything. And the game was fun, but that was fun even as an imagination to set up like a base, like you were in this super, this is how my imagination went. So me, and getting any other kids around, I'd be like, hey, let's pretend like this is like our space station. And so we'd set up the couch and the cushions and everything as a space station, and be like, computer, check us. So you'd hit like, hyperdrive on, hyperdrive off, because the whole thing was like a computer keypad for this for the Space Spartans game. But it was like you could also play and just use that for sound effects. I thought it was just awesome. I had so much fun with that, and the whole voice thing. I was like, what's this unit? Now it talks? Wacky. Anyways, and then after this, in a much later date actually, and it was almost until I was out in California, believe it or not, in my 20s, that I discovered Buzz Bombers. Buzz Bombers was like a cool game, so me and my buddy Jason would play, and that was a thing where you had the aerosol can, and it would shoot things, but then you'd have to shoot out the honeycombs, which didn't make any sense because you'd probably want to keep honeycombs. But then the bees would come around, but then you'd have this like little hummingbird, and then you'd shoot him and he'd get sick. I don't know what the purpose of that was. I think he would try to suck the nectar out of the honeycombs. Either way, eventually the flowers would build up to where you couldn't move your can, and that was the end of the game. It was a very strange one, although I'd love to see her reimagine on the Amico. That would be insane. And of course, the final game I was ever introduced to on television, Burger Time, which is weird. I got a late introduction to that and played the heck out of it. We would have Burger Time tournaments. How many levels can you get to? How many things can you... Oh my goodness, the Burger Time fun was probably some of the best times of my life. Not to mention the bowling tournaments I used to have in my house post... I'm coming back to California, I should say. Post-California, we go into my garage, and I've said this in a couple other videos, so I swear I'll keep it short. But we turned my garage into a hangout, but we did a giant projector screen with surround sound. And of course, what do we project? No, not giant HD movies. We did television baseball and television bowling, and I believe Chip Shot Super Pro Golf was on there too. But bowling, oh my God, the bowling, to this day I could pick up with a few of my friends that used to always hang out, and we could just play bowling. Same with the baseball, and tried to sliding and stealing bases. But that was like my memories, man. Yeah, it's so many things. It's like, in so many different versions of Intellivision I even bought back in the day, like especially on eBay. Like I always had our original, and it ended up stopped working, and but I always kept that one. I sold most of the games except my original Astros. I mean, I got them all back now, but I mean, at the time, you know, I wasn't thinking, but I did keep my Astro Smash with all the scores, and my dad's original, that was his original Astro Smash and his original, console. And then my sister, when she was sick a few years ago, unfortunately she passed away, when she was in the hospital, I actually brought her one of the original Intellivisions that I had, and that original Astro Smash contract. I said, hey, when you get better, we tried to hook it up in the hospital, but it it never happened. But I ended up getting that back from my brother-in-law. It's sad because like my father and my sister would love to have seen this new Intellivision console come about. But with that being said, anyways, moving on. A lot of the other things, because I also purchased an Intellivision 2, which I enjoyed. I used to have that downstairs. I had my Master System upstairs, Intellivision 2 downstairs. And then, of course, when the Flashback came out, the Intellivision Flashback, how can you not be super excited about that? I mean, everybody gets happy about that. Even this guy. But I had an Intellivision Flashback. I had 2 of them. I take them camping. I'd get a little portable TV with a little portable plug-in, the charge station. That thing will last for a few hours, man. You get to play horse racing. What's better than that? Oh, and I even have a picture. This is me taking a picture of my lineup of He-Man figures. I believe this was right after Christmas, if it's not a couple days after, lining up to see Castle Grayskull and all my He-Men. And then I also had, obviously, giant or bright orange shag carpet. For some reason, we had a sheet on the couch, which we never really had that. I don't even know why that was on there. And then you could see the Intellivision console, and you could also see, obviously I wasn't caring too much about the boxes back then, because you could see the plastic tray that held the cartridge ripped out and instruction manuals on the floor. And I believe that is Frog Bog, the red box that's on there, and that was what I got that Christmas, or the family got that Christmas. Anyways, I'm going to wrap it up. I've babbled a very long time, but I hope you enjoyed my Intellivision memories. I got a new video coming up, Is It Worthy for the Television Amico, and it's going to be a strange one. That'll be the next one popping up in the next day or so. And the license that I'm going to talk about is so weird and so out there, you guys are going to be like, how is that going to be made into a video game? Is he out of his freaking mind? Yes, I am. And it would be an amazing video game. But that's just me, and it's purely I almost choked. Purely fantasy. So, what if, right? Anyways, I hope you like this. I hope you listen to me ramble about the Intellivision, pop up pictures like I was on Talk Soup, and it's been fun. Please like, please subscribe, and we'll see you at the next one.